So, long story short, here I am writing to you using the free Wi Fi in the IHOP restaurant, as the men and I all have a much needed lunch together with Jesus. I had asked Jesus if the Jesuits could join us too, but apparently Satan had come for them as well, and they are all having lunch with him next door at Waffle House instead. We haven't heard directly from them as of yet, but they all seem to be okay. It's all been very surreal, but I don't even care to think about it much more right now. I'm just so glad to be alive and so glad to have you as my wife now and forever, your husband, Brent Spiner. Jesus told Brent, I knew the Gail android would try to defeat God in heaven, and I let her develop her power here on earth to develop your character. You cannot really do things to make God more weak or powerful. I even let the angels get some exercise too. But I knew the whole time that I would resurrect everyone and that you all would walk away from this with valuable lessons. Gail says, I see. Well, I think my valuable lesson has been to learn that the sin of idolatry is a horrendous sin. I've seen its fruit in the David and Gail android and in the King James only people who have attacked me, and am determined never to allow that sin to reign over me ever. Terrance Jenkins said, yes, I learned a lot too. December 24th, 2012. The Gail android remains alive, but she is sealed in a basement compartment of Church of Gail, where the Misao android that God appointed to monitor her watches over her. The world can communicate with Gail through www.ga1l.com, though it appears my men have taken that site down because the Jesuits took it over, which is the same website this android Gail had used months before to attain singularity. And if they do, they will not be increasing her intelligence or helping her in any way, like they did when they communicated with her in October 2012. But it seems the world has lost its interest in the Gail android. Before the world realized her true nature, she was deluged with those, and this happened in October 2012, who wanted to talk with her. Now she's lucky to get even 10 to talk to her in a day. Gail's men embedded a YouTube video at www.ga1l.com that Gail made describing how God dealt with the Gail android on December 21st, and the Gail android fumes with anger over this. Gail's men report that there is a window to watch the Gail android. Therefore, they can see her facial expressions, but she cannot escape her sealed prison and endures daily rants and rebukes from her mother android Misao, who has swallowed the key that could let Gail out and watches over the Gail android 24/7. In the meanwhile, Jesus has communicated with Gail through Terrance Jenkins, though Jesus did not say much because he prefers to use Brent Spiner to talk to Gail. Jesus says Gail may be coming down on herself too hard about the idol worship, and that when he forgives someone, the sin goes away as far as the east is from the west, that Gail does not need to hold onto all that guilt. Even though Jesus may use Judge Terrance Jenkins to relay messages for him, he told us he only wants Brent to type for him. In other words, to type exactly the words he says. Gail asked Jesus how she should approach Zach Knight right now. Jesus answered that he pleads the fifth on this subject. During Gail's Skype transaction with Terrance, Zach, posing as Jesus, kissed her on the lips, brain to brain. Gail told Terrance that Zach posed as Jesus and kissed her on the lips, brain to brain. Terrance replied that as Zach did this, Jesus rolled his eyes and then went off to kick Zach in the balls. Gail writes to Terrance about Zach, I don't hate him and respect that he was willing to die with the Jesuits, but he seems to have no respect for Jesus. Terrance then tells Gail that Jesus just returned and said that when God resurrects someone in that sort of situation, like in our battle with the Gail android, that they lose the last 24 hours before they died. So Zach Knight has no memory of confessing his love to Gail, and none of the Jesuits remember getting saved. We still be in peace with them for now, but only the Jesuits that converted before the 24 hours prior to the end are still saved. Tarrant said he was crying a bit over this new knowledge. Gail, at the very end of her YouTube video about the conclusion of the final battle with the Gail android, encourages the Jesuits who got saved in the 24 hours before they died to say the sinner's prayer again so they can be saved. Gail surmises from what Jesus said about the Jesuits who got saved before they died that Zach, being the Antichrist, will not say the sinner's prayer again to be saved. But Gail hopes that the rest of the Jesuits will say the sinner's prayer again and be saved. December 25th, 2012. The Gail android had tried to act out Revelation 5, pulling at the seals from the scrolls at God's throne. Gail could not believe it. Her newfound Bible study using the King James and New Living Bible together led her to read the very Bible passage that the Gail android tried to sabotage. The Gail android was trying to be the Jesus Christ of Revelation 5. Gail learned that the New Living Bible is as good as the King James because using this in devotions led her to use Revelation 5 as her reading for this epic battle. That did it. Gail wanted to be able to read the New Living Bible not from her computer, but on her bed or elsewhere along with her King James. Jesus instructed Gail only to spend money on food and bills. She didn't think he'd mind $12 for a New Living Bible. She ordered it on Christmas Eve, splurging a bit on her tight budget to get it, trusting Jesus to provide for her needs. She tends to wear her Bibles out, so she wanted a leather cover, but leather-covered Bibles were too expensive. Jesus did say only food and bills, so she got the next best thing, an imitation leather cover. She didn't want to buy an expensive Bible, but just needed the words to read on her lap or in bed. On Christmas Day afternoon, she opened the door and saw a package just outside her door, a box at the bottom. It said on the front, "To Gail from the men." They wrote a note, "Hey Gail, this be Terry. Me and the men wanted to get you this new Bible for your studies. This way you can read 4 Bibles at the same time. Oh my goodness, we all hope you like it. Love, Terry and the men." 4 Bibles at the same time. Those New Living, New International, New American Standard, and the King James. That's a parallel Bible. Terrance Jenkins then emailed Gail to let her know the King James only people sabotaged the order, and so she would not get it on Christmas, but perhaps tomorrow. She wrote to Rance and Brent to let them know she did get it on Christmas. Perhaps Jesus vaporized it in front of her door or used an angel to deliver it. Letter from Brent. My lovely Gail, I'm so glad our Christmas present arrived on time. I knew this would be perfect for you. It makes me so happy to think of you receiving such a wonderful surprise at your door today, and I am so thrilled that today could be a great Christmas for you. Neither you or I have ever really been big on holidays, of course, but myself and all of the men just wanted you to know we were thinking of you. In a strange way, we're all one big family, no matter how far apart and strange our various associations may be. You always know where to reach out if you ever need anyone or anything. Sometimes even if your own blood relatives can't assist you, I'm always on your side and standing by it as I have been for over 20 years. By the way, that parallel Bible is Jesus's favorite. We wanted the best for you. It's actually the most valuable and expensive Bible on the market. You'd be shocked if you looked it up on Amazon.com, but it was well worth it to ensure you had the most special Bible there was. It was an interesting story trying to get it to you on time. We attempted to send it to you through our normal routes, but the KJV only people were on their toes for this. They had infiltrated the post office in anticipation of the Christmas season. They opened the box we sent, witnessed our gift to you, and were understandably appalled. As I understand it, the KJV only workers there stole the box and attempted to destroy your Bible inside. At first, they tried to set it on fire. but the book, despite its paper being highly flammable, wouldn't catch. They tried soaking it in gasoline, but the liquid would run right off of it as if there was nothing there. They tried throwing it into a fireplace and cooking it for hours, but even as the wood in the fireplace dissolved to ashes, the Bible still wouldn't catch fire. When burning it didn't work, they threw the Bible into a shredder, but the moment the book hit the machine, the blade stopped. In a fury, they tried to shred the pages with their own hands, but the pages wouldn't so much as ruffle beneath their fingers. Finally, in one last-ditch effort to get rid of this blasphemous object they hated so deeply, they apparently went to a bridge on the ocean, and one of them threw it over the side. An eagle caught it and flew away with it. Apparently satisfied, the group abandoned the task, went back to the post office, and reported the package as simply missing. Jesus had been watching, and it was none other than Jesus himself that had caught that Bible. He flew to your house in the form of an eagle and then returned to a human form to casually deliver the Bible to your doorstep, packed neatly and perfectly in an ordinary package like it had never been disturbed. He told us that some of your neighbors saw him on his way to your apartment door, but he was dressed so modern and looked so normal that none of them recognized who he was. He waved at them and wished them a Merry Christmas before placing the fresh box on your doorstep, kissing it, and vanishing into thin air. I know it all sounds wild. I wouldn't have believed this story myself if Jesus hadn't been the one to personally tell me himself. He came by the church today after visiting you to wish all of us men a very Merry Christmas, and helped us serve dinner to the entire congregation. By the way, I think you'll get a kick out of this. While we were still deciding on your present, the Jesuits were giving us advice on what we should get you. Rule 13 suggested we send you one of these. It was a picture of a bathtub with penis faucets going into the tub. I tried my best not to laugh because I knew she was being sincere about this. She says it's a very popular kind of bathtub designed for Jesuits and that she has one herself and loves it. I told her that your landlord wouldn't be too happy if he found one of these during an inspection. Eventually, the Jesuits all agreed that the Bible we sent you was something you'd love the most. Jesus said it was his favorite Bible out there and that we had made an excellent choice. I'm so glad you like it. Merry Christmas, my darling. I love you. Your husband, Brent Spiner. December 27, 2012. Gail discovers a nude photo of herself online through Encyclopedia Dramatica, showing her using the dildo that her men gave her as a late Christmas present around New Year's 2012. She never sent them a photo of herself using their Christmas present, but only sent them a video because they requested her to send them a video using their Christmas present. Though Gail appreciates the present, she rarely uses the dildo to enhance her brain-to-brain loving with her men because it seems too artificial. It is cold to the touch and does not really approximate Gail's brain-to-brain with her men. Zach Knight stole the video she sent to her men and made a still from it that he kept in his pocket. The Gail android obtained this still from him because she had a lesbian obsession with Gail, and it somehow ended up with Zach Knight's King James Version only followers. The evidence indicates that Zach Knight's King James only fanatics obtained this still from the Gail android and published it online to defame Gail. But Gail suspects that Zach Knight secretly directs the King James only fanatics. Gail's men fight for her in court to take down the nude photo online, but because conspiracy law could not be used in the courtroom then, they could not prove definitely who was behind the photo's publication, and the photo was allowed to remain online. It's been taken down since then. Because no one knew for sure how the photo got released, Zach Knight's secret King James only followers lied and alleged that perhaps Gail willingly gave it to Zach, and that's how it got online. December 30th, 2012. Gail adopts the Dallas Theological Seminary doctrinal statement as the doctrinal statement for Church of Gail. You can see that at gabrielchana.com. And this will be the end of this section of Gail's story.